The tilt is real.
The tilt is real.
This is when the tilt is real.
Welcome to another episode of The Tilt is Real Fantasy Podcast. Coming to you live from the chef's table, here are your hosts, James Crease and Juan Pena.
Let's go.
Welcome in. It is Monday night. It is October 26th, 2020. And here with me, as always, my co-host, Mr. Juan Carlos Pena. I am James Crease, the FF Chef. And we are here just to recap some of the Sunday games. There was some slaughters out there this week, man. And and to preview the Monday Night Football game, which everybody's excited to watch, the Bears and the Rams, right?
It's a potential. Really, you're not excited, Chef?
I'm not really excited about it.
This is a potential playoff game, Chef. You know what I mean? I like anytime you get to preview a little bit of a playoff action. Like right now, the Bears are sitting pretty and they look like they're headed in that direction, even if the offense hasn't caught up to the defense. But this is my kind of game, Chef. It's a defensive struggle. You got Khalil Mack, you got Aaron Donald.
You love your defense.
I do, man. Jalen Ramsey shutting people down. Kyle Fuller. Like, this is a great game for defense.
Well, when we say that, it's a great game for defense, but for fantasy players, it's going to be a little rough. It's going to be tough sledding for Darrell Henderson, David Montgomery, going up against both of those defensive lines. It's like you said, it's going to be a defensive battle, and it's going to be nitpicking who gets the touchdown, who has a better game in the receiving side of things. It's going to be a tough one, but we're here to help you guys out. If you have those last-minute tilts, feel free, drop them in the chat, and we're going to get on to it. So our first game that we're going to be talking about here is a great one that happened yesterday. It was the Falcons and the Lions. The Lions take it at the end with a kick at an extra point at the end of the game. A great touchdown by TJ Hawkinson with the final seconds ticking down in the game, Juan.
Yeah, and it was a 49-yard extra point attempt, Chef. Like, it ended up being that because even then there was a penalty to make it even more dramatic at 22-22, and they forced Prater back another 15 yards, and he was able to nail that kick and steal that win for the Lions. And it could have only happened to both of these teams, Chef, after the season they've been having. Like, the Falcons were 98.7% guaranteed to win that game, and that's the third highest percentage of guaranteed win that they've blown just this year alone. That's kind of mind-boggling.
I was a little upset that the Lions won that. I had my money on the Falcons. It should have been their week to win. But we saw some fantasy stars in this game, which is always great because we know it was supposed to be a shootout, which for the most part it was. I think it hit the over. Let me just check on that. It definitely
I don't think so.
The over.
The over-under was 54 and a half.
54 and a half.
Yeah, it was under. It was 23-22, so it was 45. They were 9 points shy.
So it was 45. So, yeah, it wasn't really a high-scoring game like we expected it to be. My apologies out there.
No, but high yardage, though, Chef. It wasn't high touchdown scoring, but the yardage was there, and all of the players that were fantasy relevant did fantasy relevant type of things. The
one takeaway that I like about it is Todd Gurley. He went over his mark this time. He hit 26 touches, 23 of them being carries, only 63 yards, but he got in the end zone twice. And then he had 2 receptions for 19 yards as well on 3 targets. Todd Gurley, man, he's there. Top 10 in the running back core.
Yeah, and he cemented that with that second by mistake touchdown where he didn't want to score and he just kind of dropped at the 6-inch line and trying not to get in the end zone because that would have won him the game. Like that game was over.
So awkward. That was so awkward. Did you see the way he twisted?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Oh.
Last minute. And the guys, the Lions are all like, touchdown. Yeah. Give it to him. Let him in. Go ahead. Give us the ball back. Let Stafford have a crack at it.
And that's what turned the tide there. Them not going down on the goal line and him falling in gave Detroit just enough time to put it over the top. Some other key players in this game, DeAndre Swift getting into the end zone for the second week in a row, and he looks like the passing down, receiving running back going forward. Absolutely. He's still splitting carries in the backfield with Adrian Peterson, though.
Yeah, we expected that, Chef, depending on game script and how the game is flowing as to whether or not he's going to get the same amount of carries or maybe more one day than Adrian Peterson. But you love to see the involvement in the passing game, and the fact that he got in the end zone saved the week, really, because he did, it was an underwhelming performance, but by what we were all expecting. But he saved you with the touchdown, and he still ended up getting you double-digit fantasy points. And that's all you can really ask for a guy that you're putting in your flex at this point.
Right. Yeah. Hold your expectations. Don't roll them out there in your running back 2 spot unless you have to. Mm-hmm. And I know some people do. I had to in a couple leagues, and thank God that touchdown saved me. But talking about some key players, Kenny Golladay,
He's
6
back.
receptions for 114 yards. All 6 catches, according to Pro Football Focus, were contested catches. So Kenny Golladay going up there and being the man on that team, and this is what he needed to do. He's trying to be that elite wide receiver and be the one there, which is not really hard to do with Marvin Jones not really doing too much. But Kenny Golladay putting his foot in the ground and saying, I am the guy here, and he looks good going forward.
Yeah, Chef, he had 11 touchdowns last year, and I was banking on Kenny Golladay being a top 5 type of player. But you like to see the catch total come up to 6 and for him to get over 100 yards again, and like for him to feels like he's back on track. The few games that he's been back after the hamstring injury, it feels like Kenny Galladay's here, and Stafford trusts him, and he's willing to throw him the ball in any scenario because he knows he's going to go up there and make that contested catch that you were talking about.
I like that. I like that a lot. And Julio Jones did his thing, 8 for 97. And Calvin Ridley finds the back of the end zone. He almost had 2 touchdowns, Mr. Ridley. Yep. Mm-hmm. And but the first one didn't count. He was way out of bounds. And then the second one came back, and he made sure he was there. He was actually wide open, I believe, on the touchdown that he got, which is crazy.
Yeah, his moves are real in the red zone. Like, he's unbelievable with his shake. But he was able to throw in a 2-point conversion, which gives you a little bit of extra points too. And those count, and he's just involved. Like, Ridley's just going to be around all season long. You can count on him and Julio to continue to have volume as long as Matt Ryan's still back there as the quarterback.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so I love that game in the sense that you got a bunch of yards and you had everything. You just didn't get the boom from the touchdowns, and we didn't see like the Marvin Jones crazy game. We might have thought we could see like 3 touchdowns and all that. So it was a little bit underwhelming in a certain scoring sense, but fantasy is about yards too, and they count.
Hey, Juan, coming in off the wire, we got a question, so we're going to pop it up here.
Lima FN.
Lima FN from YouTube wants to know, should I trade Hill, which I'm assuming Tyreek Hill, and CEH for CMC and JaMychal Hasty?
Oof. I guess it depends on what your wide receiver situation is. But yeah, if I can move both of those and my team is pretty strong and I can get CMC coming back, because Hasty's a rental. I like him. He's a jitterbug. He's elusive. He's going to get an opportunity to play this week against Seattle, and he should, be able to perform. But he's more of a rental. But the CMC, like Hill and CEH for CMC coming back, if your team can withstand it and you can afford to lose the depth, since we don't know what's going to happen with CEH going forward with Le'Veon Bell eating into the carries and touches, yeah, I think getting CMC to make a playoff run, if you're in a position to do it roster-wise, go for it.
Yeah, and then you would get JaMychal Hasty to add in there against the fold next week.
Right.
I forget who the
Seattle
49ers. Seattle. Yeah. So
he's
definitely going to get some work. He's definitely going to get some work.
Involved in the passing game probably too, I would predict, against Seattle. The way Chase Edmonds was used kind of last night, in that shootout that you saw, I think you can use JaMychal Hasty in a similar fashion, especially if Debo's out with the hamstring. And
Tyreek Hill, he hasn't really been putting up the numbers that you would hope.
Yeah.
Where you drafted him, you drafted him in the top 5 in wide receivers, and he's not putting up top wide receiver numbers week to week, which, he's always that boomer bust candidate, and it's been more of a bust considering that CEH is on the field.
They have too many weapons, Chef. You love to say too many cooks in the kitchen, you know what I mean? It's
too many cooks in the kitchen, too many chefs spoil the broth, however you want to say it. Food puns are us.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's what it is. Thanks for the question, Lima FN, and subscribe on YouTube. Appreciate it. Thank you. So our next game that we're going to get into is the Browns versus the Bengals.
What a shootout, Chef.
Oh, now this was a shootout.
Yeah.
The original over-under was 50.5, and it went over. It was a great 37-34 finish. Almost went into overtime. Did it almost go into overtime?
It
No,
almost
not.
did. No,
Yeah.
but it was a shootout late, Chef. And listen, I don't think the Bengals punted like the entire game. Like Baker had to compete with that. And after going 0 for 5 in the first half, Baker Mayfield, when he got off to that rough start, he hit 22 out of his next 23 passes, and one of them was a spike. The incompletion was a spike. So he actually didn't miss a beat, and he looked absolutely amazing in that second half and was able to like will his team to victory. It was a big win for Baker.
Yeah, big win for Baker. He loses OBJ, and then we learned today that he has a torn
ACL.
Torn ACL. So OBJ unfortunately will be out for the rest of the season. For all you dynasty owners out there, don't be too concerned. He will be coming back next year with his contract. The way it's set up, he just will skate by and most likely be a Brown unless he gets traded next season. But yeah, Baker did great. 5 touchdowns. He almost hit the 300 mark for yardage. Not what I expected, and I owned Baker Mayfield in a couple leagues. And to my falsity, I guess, however you say it. Yeah, I wasn't playing him. I had better options, but he did surprise, and it was a great surprise to have.
Yeah, it was definitely unexpected, Chef. It's only the second time in his career that he's had more than 25 fantasy points, like by regular scoring, standard scoring, without bonuses and all that. And he's never put up this kind of game. But he had to. Like there was no choice. Their defense just could not stop the Bengals, and Burrow just kept going up and down the field. And they, like I said, they didn't punt. That's a tough hill to climb when you're the opposing quarterback and your defense can't stop the other team from scoring. You just got to keep scoring right back at them.
Right. And we saw that. And it wasn't his normal weapons, obviously, with OBJ going out. Harrison Bryant, wow, 4 receptions for 56 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then David Njoku got in on the action, had himself a touchdown as well. The usual suspects of Jarvis Landry, and I know he was banged up, and he has he's dealing with a broken rib. Only 1 receiving? No, 5 receptions for 48 yards. Doesn't get into the end zone. But Donovan Peoples-Jones, 3 for 50, 3 for 3, 3 on 3 reception on 3 targets rather. Wow, I'm tongue tied tonight. For 56 yards and a touchdown. And Rashard Higgins, 6 for 6 for 110 yards. Man, that is just awesome to see Baker utilizing some other targets on the field besides his main guys.
It was crazy the difference in how much more accurate he looked throwing it to Rashard Higgins, who, no offense, is not Odell Beckham as far as talent. Like, he's one of these guys that just works his way into the game. He's been a DNP and it didn't play by coach's decision a couple times, like a healthy scratch 2 or 3 times this season already. So he's a guy that's barely on the roster. And to see him come in and go 6 and go over 100, Chef, it just goes to show what kind of a special role Baker was on. And it kind of tells you a little bit that the Bengals defense isn't great.
Yeah, he will be on the waiver wire hero sheet this week.
Has to be.
With OBJ being out. And just a note, against Indianapolis and Pittsburgh, he scored a touchdown in both of those games.
Yep.
He didn't get the target share, obviously, because of OBJ being on the field. But now, if you add a touchdown to this production of 6 for 6 for 110 yards, you're talking low end wide receiver 1 or definitely wide receiver 2 with upside moving forward. So that's something to look forward to going through the rest of the season. And then on the others, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, with all the injuries that are happening, Chef, and all the things that are popping up in 2020 being a real thing, where you could do a lot worse than Rashard Higgins in your flex at this point, or to have at least someone that you can put in and he's your 4th wide receiver and you can kind of plug him in the rest of the way. There seems to be a chemistry, and sort of like Travis Fulgham, you don't want to dismiss it. Like, you kind of don't want to miss the train, and you want to try to make sure you can grab a share of Rashard Higgins.
Yeah, I'm sure he's widely available in most leagues. Pay attention to the waiver wire hero sheet. It comes out tomorrow afternoon at www.thetiltisreal.com and the Facebook page. Everywhere else, you can find us on Twitter at @TIR_pod. It'll be posted as well. So let's talk about the other side of the ball. The Bengals, man, they just can't catch a break, man. They can't seem to get over the hump and get another win. Joe Burrow, throwing for over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns and rushing one in, but he still doesn't get the job done.
Yeah, they came up short on the real football field, but Chef, you got to love this for fantasy because the kid fights. He's trying to be in every single game. Like he keeps them in it. Before, the Bengals didn't have a chance. They were the type of team that might stay in it through 3 quarters, but you could pull away in the late 3rd quarter, early 4th, and go up by 10 and beat them by whatever the Vegas odds lines usually are against the Bengals. But this kid Burrow won't let them die. They have a chance as long as he's got the ball and you have a chance. Like he got a chance to win the game. And Higgins looked electric. He seemed to have found AJ Green a little bit. And Tyler Boyd is just a machine in the slot.
Yeah, Tyler Boyd is a machine, man. He crushed it. Oh my gosh, 11 receptions for over 100 yards and a touchdown. He also ran it once. T. Higgins on the outside, even with the tough matchup against Denzel Ward, he still does his thing. 5 receptions he went 5 for 5 for 71 yards and a touchdown. That's amazing up against a strong cornerback in Denzel Ward.
Yeah,
and even AJ Green got in on the action.
Right, I was going to say they moved both of them around a little bit.
Yeah.
So that to free them up, and AJ Green got involved.
And the other great surprise was Giovanni Bernard. He didn't get the yardage per se, but he was utilized in the passing work. 5 receptions for 59 yards and a touchdown, 13 carries for 37 yards. Finished the day with 20.6 fantasy points. And that was what you were hoping when you got the news from Joe Mixon going out, that you have a viable backup in Giovanni Bernard.
Yeah, you were hoping for that James White stat line, 5 or 6 catches, 50, 60 yards, a little bit of involvement in the run game, maybe finds the end zone. Something along those lines is what you were banking on from the beginning when you went with and got Giovanni Bernard.
And from one close matchup to another, we move on. Both teams were 5-0. It was the undefeated matchup of the week. The Steelers facing the Titans, and the Steelers win 27-24. Steelers are now 6-0. One of the only left undefeated teams, if not the only undefeated team left in the league.
And then there was one. Yeah, because after Seattle lost last night, that's it. The only team standing that's still undefeated. And you saw the look on Big Ben's face when Gostowski missed a field goal. He was like, wow. Like he wasn't expecting Gostowski to miss that field goal to tie the game. And, they skated with that win. But sometimes when you're on one of those runs, that's what you need is a little bit of fortune on your side. And they're still undefeated.
Yeah, I can't believe Gostowski missed that kick. And that's not the first one he's missed now. In week 1, I believe he missed a big kick.
He's been struggling throughout the year. He's missed a couple extra points, and it hadn't come back to haunt them until now. But now it actually came back and got them, and cost them that game at the end.
Yeah, that's a shame. That's really a shame. I'm rooting for the Tennessee Titans this year, even though they're losing. They lost the game. They're still a strong team to compete with. Derrick Henry, 20 carries. He's a big bowling ball. Still gets into the end zone.
Yep.
A.J. Brown. Come on, let's talk about A.J. Brown for a second. 6 receptions on 8 targets for 153 yards and a touchdown.
Monster game.
Every week, this guy is just beasting all over the field.
And he's just getting right, Chef. Like, I feel like he's going to get better and better. Like, he's just about to get himself right. They do have a little bit of a gauntlet, though, with their schedule coming up in the next few games. The next 5 games are going to be pretty tough, especially for fantasy purposes. They'll probably beat the Bengals, but the Bengals are still a top 12 defense, against the run. So Henry's got a bit of a gauntlet coming up. He's got the Bears, he's got the Ravens, and 2 games against the Colts. So those are 5 matchups that you're going to have to earn it. Like, Derrick Henry's got an uphill battle the next few games.
Lower some expectations going forward against those tough matchups. But if he put up 75 yards and a touchdown against the Steelers defense,
correct,
which is one of the best in the leagues. I think they were like number 6, giving up the 6th least amount of fantasy points in the league to the run game. Henry did his thing, considering.
Oh, absolutely. If you can get that, because you still got the usage. And it was surprising because even though they were behind, they still stuck to their game plan, ran the ball, play action to A.J. Brown whenever you get a chance. And they stuck to their game, and Vrabel was true to his nature and to his team. Big Ben turned the ball over 3 times, Chef, and they still won that game. So that goes to show you like that the Titans were definitely in that game.
Yeah, the defense for the Titans came alive with the turnovers. 3 interceptions for Roethlisberger, like you said. Not very characteristic of Roethlisberger to have that many turnovers. But they come out with the win here. The big winner on the day for the Pittsburgh side of the ball was your guy, Deontay Johnson. 9 receptions on 15 targets, 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. Man, he crushed it with 29 fantasy points for the day.
Yeah, and he looked good, man. The one touchdown that he got towards the goal line, it was absolutely perfect. As soon as he caught the ball, you're not supposed to turn and start making a move until you look it all the way in. But he was already in the motion of making the nice little spin move near the goal line, and he bought himself the space to just walk right into the end zone.
It's going to be a little bit of a tough sledding next week for Pittsburgh going up against Baltimore. And watch out for Deontay Johnson and keep an ear to the ground for that ankle injury that he sustained in this matchup.
4th different injury, Chef. 4th. He had the toe, a concussion, his back, and now the ankle. So that's 4 different times that he's put you on questionable. Like, you kind of keeps you on alert. And Chef, to your point, real quick, I kind of looked it up real fast to double check, but Pittsburgh was actually number 1 against the run.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, to number 1 against the run in terms of points allowed to the running back on the opposing team. And so Henry was still able to do his thing. So if he did it against them, you're right. Maybe he can do it against the other, hard teams that he has coming up in the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he is the focal point of that offense. He makes it churn. The play action starts and stops because of him and his production. So if he does that going forward, yes, he's going to have some tough matchups but we saw Miles Sanders break one against the Ravens for 70-plus yards. So why not? Why not Derrick Henry?
Yeah, against the Steelers, he had that 74-yard touchdown, Miles Sanders.
Was it against – he had something against the Ravens too, didn't he?
He did. I believe he did, against the Ravens too. But he did it to the Steelers for 74 yards for that touchdown. So, yeah, I mean, even those great defenses, they can be had. If you stick to it and continue to grind, eventually you'll break one. At least that's the plan.
I have my faith in Mark Vrabel, the coach over there. He does some great things.
Yeah, Vrabel's a good coach for sure.
All right. Anything else you want to mention on this game?
I was a little disappointed in Jonnu, and not just the production, but the usage too. Like, I just felt like there was a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets, and he really wasn't getting the looks. I don't know if that was a product of Terrell Edmonds and Minka Fitzpatrick coming down and covering, or Vince Williams was on him. I'm not sure exactly what the cause was, but I'm a little concerned about him not being 100% and still playing through it and not being able to produce or not getting looked at in the red zone. He had one look that I saw down there near the red zone, but it wasn't enough for me. Like, I'm a little disappointed. He was tight end 2 for a minute there the first 4 games of the season. Yeah,
I was loving his production early on in the season, but I think that injury is lingering just a little bit. And I think he was more of a decoy. And we saw Corey Davis with 6 receptions for 35 yards and a touchdown. Kind of played that intermediate role for them instead of Jonnu Smith this week.
And maybe that's what happened. Just the coverage went towards Jonnu, and Corey Davis was able to win some matchups.
That's pretty much what I saw.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along. The Saints pull out another win. I don't know how they keep doing it without their stars on the field. They lose Emmanuel Sanders and Michael Thomas before going into this matchup against the Carolina Panthers, and somehow they win 27-24, another close one for the Saints.
It's Drew Brees, man.
Yeah, Drew Brees, I guess. You're right. Can't count him all the way out.
Never. Unbelievable.
Drew Brees, as mentioned, 29 completions for 287 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he ran the ball in. He had a rushing touchdown on the goal line, reaching over.
Almost not a touchdown, too. Almost a fumble. Like, it was so close.
He did have one fumble in the game, which lowered his fantasy production for the day. He did finish with 22.6 fantasy points, which is an honest outing for Drew Brees. You can't knock it, especially without having some of his main weapons on the field.
Yeah, when you don't have Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders and you're still able to put up 20-plus fantasy points, like that was a pleasant surprise. And going into this game, I said that Teddy Bridgewater would have more fantasy points than Drew Brees, and I really thought that was the way it was going to pan out. But at the end of it, it ended up being close, and Brees ended up outscoring him because of that rushing touchdown.
Yeah, that's pretty much what changed it as far as that. Without that touchdown, I mean, he's not doing so well.
They're right there, yeah.
Alvin Kamara, usual suspect, 14 carries for 83 yards, eight receptions on 8 targets for 65 yards. He didn't get into the end zone this week, but still put up an awesome game for you.
Yeah, and it was surprising that he didn't score. But again, Breeze jumped over the top, and then they were able to hit random other targets. Jared Cook got into the end zone. Deontay Harris got into the end zone. Those weren't names that you were expecting to be calling, to go for 6. And there was a bigger surprise in this game, Chef. That was Marquez Callaway.
Yeah. 8 for 75 on the day on 10 targets. He did great. He did great in the absence of Emmanuel Sanders.
He did. He filled in. And so it's a rental. He only played for the one game, but it was nice to be able to see Breeze back to his old self where he's spreading the ball around to all different targets, and the defense kind of didn't know what to get, at least in the beginning, because then after that, the defense clamped down and kind of held the Saints in check the rest of the way and let Teddy Bridgewater cook a little bit. But the reason I think that the Panthers lost, man, they just weren't able to get going on the ground.
Yeah, just keep an eye out for Marquez Callaway before you go out and add him on waivers. He did sustain an ankle injury in this game late and had to be escorted to the locker room early. Just keep an eye on those things. He probably will be on the waiver wire hero sheet. We don't know how long Emmanuel Sanders is going to be out. Some players act differently towards that 2020 pandemic disease that's going around.
Michael Thomas isn't a sure thing either, with all the injuries starting to pile up. The hamstrings linger, they pop again, or they strain again, trying to go full speed. And that ankle is nothing to play with, a sprained ankle. So,
yeah, that's absolutely right. And the Saints had their fair shares of injuries and problems so far this season, still sitting at 4-2. On the other side of the ball, the losing side of the ball, the Panthers, 2 big surprises. Number one, and I guess this goes for both teams, no running back scored in this game.
Yeah, you saw Curtis Samuel get a rushing touchdown, but it wasn't, but it wasn't a running back, a traditional running back. He's only gotten 2 or 3 carries per game at the most, and it's usually gadgetry. But they were able to sneak him in for a touchdown. But yeah, like I said earlier, Chef, Mike Davis struggled, man. 7 carries for 12 yards. That's just not going to cut it.
Nope. It's not going to cut it is right.
And I know they were playing from behind, but outside of the huge play to DJ Moore, you saw Robbie Anderson up to his old tricks. He had 6 catches for 74 yards. So that it's encouraging. But then, still you're playing from behind. You could have wanted both of them to hit the 100-yard mark. You wanted to see a little bit more sense of urgency from the Panthers earlier on in that game.
Yeah, it seems like they only start throwing the ball when they really need to, instead of just punching it down there early and often to get ahead.
Take your shots a little bit earlier than you need to. Maybe when they don't expect you to have to take the shot and open up your offense, especially if you're going to just give up on the run anyway. Don't give up on the run and then make everything a dink and dunk and a short little pass. Buy him some time, roll him out, and then look what happens. He hit DJ Moore for that long touchdown because they bought him a little time and he was able to sling it all the way down the field.
And we just mentioned Curtis Samuel, the guy I was ready to write off for the season, and then he comes out with 6 receptions for 48 yards and runs one into the end zone. So I mean, I can't spot this guy, man. I really can. He's up and down for me way too much.
Yeah, he's been mostly down, Chef, in your defense. Right. This is his first time that he's actually done something kind of relevant and had himself a decent fantasy game. And it was because they called his number from the 5-yard line because they had 0 success with any of the other running backs. So they gave him a chance to, run it in, and he got in the end zone. He's an electric player. And, I loved him in the beginning of the season, and I thought he was a sneaky play. But he hasn't always been in the slot. He's been running a lot of motion. He's the guy they use in all their motion and all their gadgetry. That's who they use. And he's kind of like a decoy, it feels like, because then they'll turn around and throw a slant to Robbie Anderson. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where they've been eating. That's where they've been living.
Mike Davis, very, very poor day, but things should turn around. They play Atlanta this week, early on Thursday night. Reports are saying that CMC is back in practice, but is not looking like he's going to play this week. And that was actually the plan. Like they said this 3 weeks ago, that he probably wouldn't be ready for the Atlanta game.
You shouldn't need him for the Atlanta game.
No, probably.
You know what
not.
I mean? You try to win that game without him, and then you have 10 days to get right before your next game, and then he can play.
Yeah, that's probably the goal and probably the way they're moving forward. But news came out today that Coach Matt Rule wants to incorporate Mike Davis in even when CMC comes back. So we may not be getting the same CMC that we expected.
Or you
Although
might see
he's going to want to ball out.
You might see a shift in role, Chef. Like you might see him doing all the Curtis Samuel type stuff and gadgetry, and he might be in the slot a heck of a lot more, which gives your offense the element of surprise because you don't know what's going to happen. You can line him up in the slot and then suddenly come bring him back to the backfield and run with 2 back sets and have Teddy Bridgewater protected with 2 guys flanking him and doing a bunch of different things. So they're really not using the tight end. So you might see like an empty situation with all 3 receivers, CMC and Mike Davis on the field.
That's something to mess with there, man.
Yeah, it's a fun little Madden lineup. I know that.
That's a fun little Madden lineup.
Indeed, dude. Think about it. Oof.
All right, you got anything else for this Panthers-Saints game?
Nah, just that the Panthers should have won the game. I thought they were the better team, and the line was 7 points, and we were all over it. But it felt like they should have won that game. They're just missing a little bit still. It feels like they're not ready to play with the big boys just yet.
I hear you. They're not going to make it. I don't think they're going to make it this year into the playoffs. No. Not in that division.
Yeah, the NFC West looks too tough, and then you still have to go through the Saints and the Bucks. I mean, it's an uphill battle.
But hey, they got a pretty good schedule, and they're going to get CMC back. So only time will tell.
Indeed.
One thing that time is telling that Josh Allen is reverting back to his old ways. The Bills come out of New York, or the Meadowlands, I will say, MetLife Stadium, with their tails between their legs, even with a win 18-10 against an 0-6 team in the Jets. What was going on?
And not just your average 0-6 team. Like, this is like a historically bad, been getting trashed by everyone, just came off a shutout in Miami, 24-0, that bad football team with Frank Gore as their starting running back and LaMichael P. Ryan. It's not exactly, Jamison Crowder's out. They have a plethora of problems there, and they have the Gase hole, and they were able to give it to the Bills to the point where the Bills had to have been panicked at one point, Chef. And Allen, like you said, he was the MVP for 4 weeks, and then the last 3, he's looked like the old Josh Allen.
The only thing that saved him on the day was the rushing. Again, 11 carries for 61 yards. He did pass 43 times. He completed 30 on 43 passes for 307. Got you 15.3 fantasy points without any bonuses because he did fumble once. And then the guy that I wanted to play and I just didn't do it. I had some fun in the Megala Bowl with the fantasy footballers. We talked post-show yesterday. And I took Zach Moss out of my lineup, and I put in who'd I play? A.J. Dillon instead, just for laughs, I guess you could say. It's a free league. We like to have fun with some of those free leagues. Yep. But Zach Moss wound up being the lead rusher on the day for the Bills, behind obviously Josh Allen, putting up 10 fantasy points. He got 7 carries for 47 yards. I think it's starting to move the needle a little bit again, and Zach Moss may be fantasy viable going forward.
Look for them to do something different, Chef. Look for them to try to make those changes in their offense and give it a little spark wherever they can find it, because they're having a little bit of a problem moving the ball, and they're having a problem getting continuity in that offense. So something's going to have to change, and it could end up being that Zach Moss ends up taking that lead role from Devin Singletary, which I always thought made more sense anyway in the body type and build of the 2 backs, to have Moss be your first and second down back and Singletary work more as a third down back and more of a pass catcher anyway.
I agree. I like Zach Moss going forward. And the Bills, their schedule doesn't get too much easier, that's for sure. I'm looking at it now. Who do they have? New England. Then they play Seattle, which is nice, but Arizona. Then they go into the bye. Chargers, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Denver, New England. That end of the season schedule is a tough slate, man. And all those teams that Josh Allen may wind up getting you to the fantasy playoffs. He is not my favorite pick to win you the championship this year. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And we can definitely kill all the MVP talk for right now and leave it alone.
Not too much happening on the Jets side of the ball, and I'm not going to even go into my man, Denzel Mims.
Hey, 4 for 42 ain't bad, Chef.
4 for 42 in a rookie debut. If you want to mention it, fine. He did he Darnold missed him in the end zone. He got the Trey White treatment on one passing play, and he just couldn't bring it down. Looked like he was held a little bit. Just I'm not a Bills fan, but yeah, that's what happened. Look for him to moving forward for Mims and Darnold to have an actual connection. First game in, and you saw it. He was looking for Mims. Mims is an all-around receiver, and he doesn't just play on the outside. He can play in the slot when asked upon, and he is a big target, similar to a Chris Godwin-like player. Keep an eye on him, and he should be added in waivers, and he might wind up on the waiver wire hero sheet this week, depending on the news about Jamison Crowder.
Yeah, I think even with or without Crowder, Chef, he's worth a mention because they're going to always be playing from behind. And at some point, you got to think that offense is going to get right enough to at least where he puts up those 2 years ago Devontae Parker late in the season garbage numbers where he would have 8-10 targets in the second half alone just because they were coming from behind. And he's a specimen of a human, and he's better than a lot of the corners in the NFL. So in some matchups, he will be able to get some sort of fantasy relevance going forward for sure.
I think it happens after their bye week in week 10. Not the next two. They play Kansas City and New England, but after the bye in week 10, they play the Chargers, Miami, Las Vegas, and Seattle in weeks 11 through 14. So he could be a viable flex play down the road. I'm not putting my money on him just yet, but he is somebody to keep an eye on moving forward.
I dig it.
All right. On to the NFC least.
Oof.
The Washington football team. Hey, I got it right this week. Absolutely trumped the Dallas Cowboys. Are they really still America's team? I don't think so. I think America is starting to lose interest.
I think it's kind of unbelievable that both these teams have 2-5 records, Chef. The hits keep coming for the Cowboys too. Like now you're without Andy Dalton, at least. That the rest of that game, he went down with the concussion, and then Ben DiNucci is going to be the quarterback, if he doesn't start. So, I mean, what do you do if you're the Cowboys? There's disgruntled players. They don't know what they're doing. They couldn't perform. Like the only player that you saw do anything great was Amari Cooper, and it wasn't great. It was just, 7 catches for 80 yards. So it feels like it's good. You know what I mean? But it wasn't by any means was it a dominant performance. The only thing dominant about this game, Chef, was the defense of the Washington football team and your boy Antonio Gibson.
Well, McLaurin did a good job as well. Don't write off McLaurin.
Right.
Antonio Gibson, yes, you're absolutely right. 20 carries for 128 yards and a touchdown. He seemed like he's starting to fit into that offense perfectly. We still see J.D. McKissick getting some of the passing work and some of the carries out of the backfield. Actually, McKissick, great numbers. He's putting up seven yards per carry, 5 carries for 35 yards. That's something to note. And, even Peyton Barber got 10 carries in this one. I think maybe just because they were running out the clock. They didn't really need Gibson in on many plays. But he got 20 carries. So that's great. McLaurin.
Love to see that.
Yeah. 11 targets for McLaurin. He received 7 of them for 90 yards, got into the end zone on a long 50-yard bomb. And it just seemed like McLaurin just killed Trayvon Diggs on that play. Diggs, he has been the target of most quarterbacks to pick on in this defense. And it just looks like the whole team in general, the Cowboys, they have no air in their lungs. Even Ezekiel Elliott, 12 carries for 45 yards. I mean, come on. You're making what? What's he making? $14 million a year?
Something along those lines.
He's supposed to be that bright star that, everybody compares him to Emmitt Smith for the Cowboys. And, man, you're just stinking it up, dude. Just stinking it up.
And his defense, Chef, it's tough when all of your linemen are out. Like,
right.
It's tough. You lost Frederick in the offseason. Zach Martin is out. La'el Collins went down. Tyron Smith went out. Like, man, it's tough when if you're losing that many offensive linemen and you're playing with an entire makeshift offensive line, it's going to be tough to get going. And if Andy Dalton's your quarterback and he gets a concussion and you go with Ben DiNucci, you know what I mean? Like, it just starts to feel like it's snowballing on the Cowboys right now.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, that they already have that target on their back as it is. You know what I mean? And teams want to play stronger against them. Like everybody hates them. They're America's team, except the other 31 NFL teams that hate them. You know, so every week they have a target on their back as if they were the champs, and you play them harder than you play everybody else.
I think they try to make a move for another quarterback somehow, some way. Maybe even like a Jameis Winston kind of thing. Fitzpatrick is available. So we'll see. We don't know. A couple weeks left to the trade deadline for the NFL, so we'll see what happens. But moving right along, we got a couple of games to get to before 8 o'clock, so we're going to try to speed round this a little bit.
All right, let's do it.
7:43. We got some time. We'll be all right.
I think we'll be all right.
Yeah. So we move on to the Packers versus the Texans, and boy, did Aaron Rodgers get his revenge from not having a good game in Week 6.
Yeah, man. He looked absolutely like OG Aaron Rodgers, and he found his favorite target, Devontae Adams, and just tore the league up yesterday, tore the Texans up. We knew that the Texans were going to get victimized in the passing game, and we knew that their defense has been terrible pretty much all season, but not like this, Chef. I don't know if I was ready for that.
I mean, I kind of predicted a great game for Adams, but almost 200 yards. 13 receptions on 16 targets for 196 yards and 2 touchdowns. We had to know this was coming. Jamal Williams did a great job, by the way. I'm not taking anything away from Jamal Williams.
No, 19 for 77 is good. Yeah.
With Aaron Jones being out, we knew it was going to be a Devontae Adams type of day. But yeah, and amazingly enough, even with this stat line, he was not the number one wide receiver on the week thus far.
It's kind of unbelievable that he put up those kind of numbers. And Chef, this defense is actually they've given up 12 touchdowns to the wide receiver, which is tied for most in the league. And they're also 6th in giving up 7th in giving up fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So it was supposed to be a big game. I just didn't think it would all go to Devontae Adams. Yeah,
no. Randall Cobb being the big winner on the Texans side of the ball, fantasy points-wise, 17.5. You finished with 8 receptions for 95 yards on the day. Slowly being that wide receiver 2 in those unexpected matchups, Randall Cobb seems like that security blanket that we talked about in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and I thought Darren Fells would get some work, and he didn't have a single catch. So he didn't target the tight end whatsoever. They kind of went, I guess once you're down that much, you just put as many weapons out there as you can. And Kenny Stills had 2 catches for 34 yards, but I don't remember how many targets. It felt like he had 5 or 6 targets, and he just didn't come down with them. Like him and Watson just weren't connecting in the same way that Randall Cobb feels like, and even Brandon Cooks feels like they're safer for him. And Fuller did get the Jair Alexander treatment all day yesterday.
Yeah, we called that one.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would have done. Like, I know the numbers might have said he was beyond Cooks, but like it's to me, like if I'm the defensive coordinator, I put him on Fuller and try to make him go away. And he had 3 for 35 and he got a touchdown, but it wasn't the big game that you expect, as of late that Fuller's been giving you. But I think Jair Alexander's for real, man. Like, I really think it's time to start putting him up there with Slay and Casey Hayward and Jalen Ramsey and Kyle Fuller, like the guys that that like, and your boy James Bradbury, like Stephon Gilmore, like guys that temper expectations against that corner in this game.
I agree. They're looking away from him. They are not trying to target him. That's for sure.
Right.
Moving right along, and we're going to talk a big game right here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers moved to 5-2 against the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders fall back to 503-3, 45-20. The Buccaneers just clobbered them.
Yeah,
they just clobbered them, man. Tom Brady looked like Tom Brady of 10 years ago. I mean, I know the guy eats his veggies, but some of these pinpoint accurate arrows that this guy was throwing were just amazing. He finishes the day with 33 completions on 45 attempts, 369 yards, 4 touchdowns, passing, and even ran one in himself. What is going on in Tampa? It looks like they are building for a Super Bowl run.
Yeah, man, and the rich are getting richer. He's about to get Antonio Brown. Scotty Miller went off for 6 catches for 109 yards and a touchdown, and then they're going to replace him basically with Antonio Brown. It's almost not fair what's going on right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and their defense holds the other teams down. I know the Raiders were able to muster up 20 points, but this game wasn't really close. They didn't have to run it. Like if they did struggle a little bit running the ball, and they didn't really have to. Like they just decided, all right, we're just going to air it out and beat you down the field.
Yeah, Ronald Jones was a little upsetting running the ball, and it looks like Leonard Fournette is back into the fold. He was the better running back, 11 carries for 50 yards. He even got 6 receptions for 47 yards. I think Leonard Fournette down the stretch. I know everybody was big on Ronald Jones, and I was hesitant to put Fournette in my lineup yesterday, but after seeing this, I think Fournette down the road is going to be the more heavily used running back in this backfield.
I 100% agree, Chef. And I would say that the talent should have won out anyway. Like the logic should have told you that the talent of Leonard Fournette, who's a number 4 overall pick, monster player, guy that you want to build your team around, wore number 7 at LSU, like he should have been the guy anyway, but it just takes a little while to get acclimated. He didn't get healthy, didn't get right. I think you'll see a 50-50 split for a little bit, but after that bye week, Chef, in week 13, when they come down to the fantasy playoffs, I think Fournette's the guy you might want to have on your team at the end of the day. It stinks because we talked about it yesterday on the show, and Ronald Jones, 3.3 yards after contact per attempt. Like he's really breaking tackles and getting extra yards. And then you didn't see it a lot yesterday, and you saw Fournette get more involvement. I don't like that running back situation whatsoever. Like I'd rather fade the whole thing.
Yeah, well, on the receiving things, Chris Godwin, 9 receptions on 9 targets for 88 yards and a touchdown. Absolutely, going forward, he is the guy that I would actually pick out of all 3 of those. I'm actually fading Mike Evans, only 2 receptions for 37 yards in this game. And if Antonio Brown comes into this offense, I think you see Evans have a downtick, and he will be hard to put your thumb on to whether or not he scores on a weekly basis.
I think it'll be completely matchup dependent, Chef. If you can get a position where there's a rookie corner or they're going to be in a shootout, maybe you fire them all up. But Mike Evans definitely drops down to a wide receiver 2-3 type situation for me. And it's a boom or bust 2-3 at that. So like he starts to drop down to that next tier of like, Brandon Cooks, like, you know what I mean? Like a guy that maybe I'm not really sure this week if I want to start him or not. And
right.
But I don't think Godwin moves. Like I think Godwin stays exactly where he is, maybe even gets better. Like him and Antonio Brown and Mike Evans will be game script matchup dependent. I think no matter what, the stat line that we saw from Godwin feels like what's the stat line is going to be going forward.
And then on the other side of the ball, I hate to say this, but nothing but disappointment outside of Nelson Aguilar, who had 5 receptions for 107 yards and a touchdown. It seems like Derek Carr, when he's going to go long, and I'm not taking away from the Buccaneers defense. They did a great job on this one. It was pretty much a desperation play at the end of the game when he had the touchdown. Henry Ruggs, very quiet. 2 receptions on 3 targets for 35 yards. Carried the ball once for 10 yards. It's not going to be like that every week where you see him blowing it up. He is just another boomer bust candidate, similar to Tyreek Hill.
And Mike Evans and those type of guys, you can all put them all in the same category. But Chef, I think it's just a testament to that the Bucs defense is really, really real. Like, and we talked about it yesterday. Then Carlton Davis and Jamil Dean, we didn't see them coming. We didn't see them coming into their own and being shut down type corners that they've been performing as the last few weeks. And you saw them shut down the Packers. I mean, Devontae Adams had 6 for 67. So we shouldn't have expected maybe Ruggs to go off and have a monster game, because if you did it to Devontae Adams, why wouldn't you be able to do it, to Ruggs?
I agree. And then the other disappointment, Josh Jacobs, 10 carries, 17 yards.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good, man. That's not good at all. And they ran the ball 20 times total.
I know the game
script. Booker got a little bit. Jalen Richard got a little bit. And I know game script depended. They were playing from behind mostly. The Buccaneers just tore it open at the beginning. But you expect more out of a top 12 candidate in the run game.
Yeah, the only reason I didn't, Chef, is because the game last week against Aaron Jones and the way that the Bucs were able to manhandle them. And then there was the question, I don't remember correctly if I didn't watch that game in particular. I just saw snippets of it throughout the day on Red Zone, and I haven't had a chance to watch that game film yet. But were the offensive linemen all out? Did they declare them all out right before the game started?
It was just the one.
Just Trent Brown?
It was just Trent Brown, and the other starters, the other linemen played.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it's just the Bucks defense then.
It's the Bucks defense.
I mean, Trent Brown is the big difference maker, and the difference in fantasy points for Josh Jacobs is like 5 points higher when Trent Brown is playing because he's a road grader right tackle. But yeah, that defense stopped Aaron Jones in his tracks, looked absolutely amazing against the Packers, and they're just hitting their stride. And Devin White is absolutely unbelievable. The hits he makes on people and the way he gets sideline to sideline. I love defense. I'm sorry. I'm going to go geek out on defense.
No, it's okay. We can keep geeking out on defense because we went into another defensive kind of game rolling into the next game. The Chiefs rolled over the Broncos 43-16 in the snow. We had our first snow game of the year, man, and it was great to see. But it wasn't a Mahomes game. Mahomes only completed 15 of 23 for 200 yards and a touchdown. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire ran the ball in once, 8 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown. It was mainly the defense.
And the special teams. Yeah, they won in all 3 phases, Chef, and they didn't need it. It's so bad when they win a game like this. Like now it makes me scared for next week because they play the Jets next week. Is Mahomes going to do the same thing where he just doesn't really care? Like if you're a Mahomes owner, do you start to get nervous that they're just blowing people out that bad? Like hopefully it won't happen and they'll be in the game a little longer where you can see a little involvement. But they just look like they're unstoppable. In terms of real football and not fantasy football, they're absolutely unstoppable right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Chiefs and the Bucks in the Super Bowl at this point. They're both definite candidates to get into the semifinals, that's for sure, the conference championship games. But the Broncos defense, fair enough. The Broncos defense did okay. I mean, they weren't on the field that often, but, it is what it is. I can't name it. Big note on this, Philip Lindsay enters concussion protocol. He did get banged up, suffered a concussion in the first half of this game, and did not come back. He's considered questionable moving into Week 8 against the Chargers.
Chef, you want to hear a cool stat?
Sure.
Le'Veon Bell yesterday on his first carry had 16 yards. Later in the game, he had another carry that also went for 16 yards. In 264 carries against the Jets, he had 1 carry for 16 yards. So he already had more carries for 16 yards with that Chiefs offense than he did in his whole time with the Jets. And he plays them next week.
I can't wait for Le'Veon Bell just to roll over the Jets, I'm telling you.
It's a revenge game. I think I'm benching CEH in all formats, Chef, because I think it's a Le'Veon Bell revenge, get right, here you go, take 20 carries and do what you can with them kind of game.
I wouldn't bench him. He's still going to be flex viable going forward. Just not that RB1/RB2 that you were depending on in the first half of the season.
I'm a little scared for this game. But anyway, that's next week. We're still focused on recapping this week. And they steamrolled the Broncos. I mean, there's not much you can say for the Broncos.
There's really not much else you could say about that. And we'll move right along to our next matchup. Another steamroll. 49ers trump the New England Patriots in Gillette Stadium, 33-6. The worst loss that the Patriots have had in I think it was 20 years?
It's 20 years, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Belichick's not used to that.
Yeah, you saw Belichick go onto the sideline with Cam Newton hanging his head low on the bench, and he gives Cam Newton a little pat and saying, "Hey man, it just wasn't our week." Cam Newton was not happy. What I want to know is, now, I mean, we could talk for days about, the 49ers beating up on the Patriots, which is nice because, I'm a Giants fan, you're a Dolphins fan, and we both hate the Patriots. But for fantasy purposes, I want to take a look real fast on what's happening to the Patriots offense. Where did it go? It's mistake city. 4 interceptions combined for the quarterbacks. Only 98 passing yards from Cam. He only ran the ball for 5 times for 19 yards. Where is the fire that we saw at the beginning of the season?
In the beginning of the season, the game against the Dolphins was It was 21-11. They didn't look absolutely amazing. The only time you ever saw a real glimpse of hope for the Patriots was when Cam went for 397 yards against the Seahawks. But that's against the Seahawks. So that are historically bad. And I have a take for that we'll be getting into tomorrow when we do our 6-pack with Corey for FF Intervention. Shout out to @joinourcircle_ and that whole team. And we'll be doing our 6-pack for Wednesday. And I'll have a little bit of information on that, how bad Seattle is. But yeah, you got to see Cam doing that. But Chef, in the beginning of the season, I always said, I didn't know what Josh McDaniels was going to do with that. And the different running back every week, you don't know which one it's going to be. You can't rely on any of them. The pass catchers, only Edelman is viable, and the defenses know that. Harry never took the leap forward. You lacked weapons just like you did with Brady before. So it's just an offense that's going to continue, I think, to sputter until they get one thing right and one style and stop trying to do what they did with Brady, where they play you different every week. You can't do that with Cam. You're going to go and impose your will and use Cam the way he's meant to be used. Even
Julian Edelman just looked terrible. I mean, I was watching I watch all games at the same time with the NFL ticket, which is kind of hard sometimes to catch exact glimpses of what happens. But I saw one pass, Edelman wide open in the slot, and Cam hits him right in the hands. And it just looks like it hits his hands, and he gives up. Just stopped. Didn't even look where the ball went. Just stopped. So there's definitely some morale problems, I think, in New England. I think there's some definite inside stuff going on there that we don't hear about. And I hope they get it fixed, man. I hope they get it fixed. But yeah, the 49ers, they trump them, man. They killed them 33-6. Jeff Wilson had himself a day, 17 carries for 112 yards, 3 touchdowns. But he did get banged up a little bit. He heads to injured reserve. Another 49ers running back on the IR.
Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable how the injuries keep hitting that team, that 49ers team, because later on, Deebo Samuel hurt his hamstring too. And then, like, you just one after another. So now they're working on their 4th running back or 5th running back that they're going to be rolling out there for this week. And it's going to be JaMychal Hasty, that Lena FN mentioned earlier, Lima FN. But JaMychal Hasty looked good, 9 carries for 57 yards. I mean, it feels like anybody they put back there is getting 6 yards a carry. It doesn't matter if it's Mostert, Coleman, McKinnon,
I think Hasty. Next week it's going to be McKinnon. They're going up against Seattle. They don't do good against pass catching backs. I think McKinnon and Hasty are going to be what's going forward. Just keep an eye out for Tevin Coleman as well. He is due to come back off of IR soon.
Right, and he'll cut into some of the carries in that work, and it's just, the 49ers are going to keep rolling. They're on a roll right now. They're playing, but they're back to their old ways. After the Dolphins embarrassed them in that game, and we hung 43 up on them, I don't think they like that very much, and they've gotten themselves going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think they're starting to come back alive, and right at the right time for them. Back over 500. This was a must win for the 49ers in that tough NFC West.
And so is this game coming up against Seattle, against the Seahawks. They're going to have to show improve, and you're going to have to see big things coming from Brandon Ayuk, who Stephon Gilmore was on him, man, and he got him 6 catches for 115 yards, 19.2 yards per catch. Like, that's a really, really good number, and it's good to see him finally hitting his stride.
Someone that's really hitting their stride, and I'll segue off of that, is Justin Herbert for the Los Angeles Chargers. Man, the Chargers come into the Jacksonville Jaguars travel across the country, come to LA in their brand new shiny stadium just to get their butts whooped 39-29. And Herbert did his thing, man. 27 completions on 43 attempts, 347 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also had 9 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, he was.
My man is balling in his rookie year. And you know what? He deserved to finally win a game.
Yeah, he definitely deserved that win for himself and for his team in general, because they've lost a bunch of close games this year. And Chef, this game was a lot closer than we'd like. You know what I mean? It was 16-14 at halftime. And then in the second half, the Chargers were able to pull a 7-point lead and then get the field goal at the end in the fourth quarter to kind of pull away. But the Jaguars, they fought, man, and they hung in there. And they stuck to their game plan too. And they gave James Robinson 22 carries for 119 yards, and he was able to find the end zone and bounce back after having a couple of outings where you started to question whether or not he was really that 6th rounder or if he was going to be somebody, going forward that was going to be fantasy relevant.
Right. Yeah, James Robinson, man, he did his thing as well. Oh, great things, but all bad things for Minshew, man. 14 completions, 173 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Man, this guy had all the hype in the world, and he was the fan favorite. I know it, but every game that they go through, it looks more and more like they're going to be tanking for one of those nice new shiny quarterback weapons come the 2021 draft.
Yeah, it's bad when you're barely over 50%. I mean, 14 for 27 is just a little bit too close to 50% for you.
One quick news point from the Jags. Daria Gumbawale. Now he came over from the Bucks in the offseason, got traded or picked up off of waivers.
Yeah.
And when the Jags released Leonard Fournette, Ogunbowale is going to be out most likely for the rest of the season. And I usually don't like to say this word on air, Juan, you know it, but Ogunbowale has COVID-19, and he has had COVID-19 for over a month.
So unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. It's just a reality check for everybody out there that this virus is serious, and it hits. These guys are elite athletes, and you're out there saying, "Oh well, I'm an athlete. I stay fit. I'll be fine. I'll get it, and then I won't be able to get it again." Ogunbowale is a class act athlete, and he was looking to be that third string running back in Tampa and second string for the Jaguars, and he has it. He's home, I believe. I think he is on a respirator, and it doesn't look good for him. So prayers to out there to his family, and I hope he gets better. And I'm praying that he will. It's sad.
That sucks, man. Yeah, 2020, man.
Yeah, 2020, man. It kicks you right where you don't want to be kicked. But we're going to move right along to the big game of the day for Sunday, and then we'll go right into the Monday night breakdown. The Seahawks and the Cardinals, man, and this was the game of the week. I'm glad it got moved to Sunday night.
Yep.
I was on the edge of my couch the whole night, thought I had my bets in the bag, betting on the Seahawks and the over, but no, it didn't go that way. The Seahawks just didn't want to win. Just for a quick recap, DK Metcalf went down the field in overtime, I believe.
No, that was earlier.
Oh, no, it was in the end of the fourth quarter, and had a touchdown for himself. It was about a 40-yard pass play, a quick pass, slant pass to DK, and he took it all the way down the field, but David Moore got called on a holding penalty, called the game back. They wound up kicking a field goal. Cardinals come back and tie it. They go into overtime, and it was back and forth the whole game. Well, not really. I'm sorry. I apologize. The Cardinals didn't lead this game until the last field goal, which is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, they never gave up. They never said die, and they just stuck to their guns. And we saw Kyler Murray duel with basically the mentor or the guy that he's trying to emulate and be like. And Russ and him went toe to toe, and it was a different kind of game because you don't see Russ making mistakes. And he threw 3 interceptions, and the Cardinals defense showed up. And Chef, my one thing, I love defense. Patrick Peterson put the bracelets on DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Patrick Peterson is the real deal again. I know he was out last year in the beginning, and he struggled a little bit. Patrick Peterson's the real deal again, and he's back into full shape, and he should be getting a lot more credit for that performance last night than everybody's giving him credit for. He was amazing. He was his old self.
Russell Wilson was very smart with the ball, and Dre Kirkpatrick was banged up going into this game. We noted that yesterday on the Sunday Tilt, and he took advantage of it. Every time Dre Kirkpatrick was on the field, he was throwing at Dre Kirkpatrick, and Tyler Lockett, the big benefactor of that, 15 receptions for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. He is the wide receiver 1 on the week with 53 fantasy points. Can we get a clap for Tyler Lockett? Awesome performance. But the Seahawks fall short, and they get a few injuries on the way. Chris Carson banged up.
Yeah.
He is day-to-day. The MRI shows that he did, in fact, get a mid-foot sprain. So he's going to be day-to-day. that sucks for that. Carlos Hyde got a little banged up in this one. Not sure what his status is. Travis Homer got banged up. We saw DJ Dallas come in. And then on the other side of the ball, Kenyon Drake, who finally had a great game against Dallas Cowboys last week.
Yep.
He's going to be out for a few weeks. He confirmed he does have a torn ligament. So Chase Edmonds is the guy, and we saw him come alive late where it counted in overtime. My man rushed the ball for 5 carries for 58 yards, 7 receptions on 7 targets for 87 yards, finishing the day with 21.5 fantasy points. My man Chase Edmonds, it's his time. I called it in the offseason, and his time is here.
You called it last week too, Chef, when we did our 6-pack. You said that he was going to be on the up and up, and you never like to see it happen because of injury. I thought that slowly Drake would be phased out, and that passing work would all go to Edmonds, and that progression of that offense. Like Kyler Murray threw for 360 yards and 3 touchdowns, and then he ran the ball for 67 more. Like he's MVP status type of player, and it's going to be going that way week to week. And I love the way he and Edmonds are feeding off each other, and the RPO game. Like he's got a little extra burst, Chase Edmonds, that Drake doesn't have. He's got a little extra get to the edge and make a move that Drake was missing so far this year. And it's partly because he was trying to play through injury. So
Right.
Kudos to him for being tough and trying to play through the injury. But it's definitely Chase Edmonds season.
And we saw, the Seahawks being the worst against wide receivers. We saw the receiving core for the Cardinals come alive. DeAndre Hopkins, per usual, 10 receptions for 103 yards and a touchdown. And not really a surprise. We called this one on the Sunday tilt as well. Christian Kirk, 5 receptions on 8 targets, only 37 yards, but found the end zone twice. And if you had him in fantasy, you were happy you played him this week.
And I took you and Mr. Swanson's advice yesterday afternoon, and I started Christian Kirk, and he was, fortunate when you find the end zone twice like that. That's not the normal, game script or the way it goes. But he almost had a third one, Chef, and it was either pass interference or a touchdown, like kind of situation where Kyler took a shot late in the game before they kicked the field goal when it was 3rd down and 3, and he trusted him. And I like to see that going forward in my receiver, because I know that if moving forward, he's going to continue to throw the ball to Christian Kirk and trust him in one-on-one matchups. And they got him involved in screens and whatnot. So the usage was dope. It was really good to see that.
And we do have to just note, Larry Fitzgerald caught all 8 of his targets last night, and he broke one of Jerry Rice's records for most receptions in one stadium.
Yeah, he did. That was the one that he broke, and everything else he moved into number 2 all time in most receptions, and consecutive receptions as well in consecutive games. 250 consecutive games, 253, whatever the number was. Unbelievable record, though.
I don't think he gets into Jerry Rice. I don't think he usurps Jerry Rice, but man, that's great company to be with. Anytime your name is matched up with one of the greatest of all time, that's great.
Miles on YouTube says, "What's up? What's up, Miles?" Just saying hi real quick to the comments.
Hey, Miles, what's up, bud? We'll put that up there. What's up, Miles? All right, so let's get into the Monday Night Madness. And Miles, we'll leave you up on the screen for a little bit, man. Thanks for hopping on for us. We appreciate you. Going into the Rams and the Bears, man, and this is going to be a rough one. It's going to be a low-scoring matchup. The line, as it was yesterday, the Rams giving 6 points. The over-under is 44.5. And quick news update: it happened while we just went on the air.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Higbee is out. Okay,
even bigger, Chef. Khalil Mack is out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh man, should have.
So wait, hold on. No, it says no, he's active. Hold on.
Yeah, don't confuse it. Let's see.
Yeah, let's take a look at this.
Let's not get this wrong.
Oh, no, Buster Screen and Khalil Mack are active.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, all right. He wasn't going to miss this game, yeah. He's a little banged up, but he's going to play. Why wouldn't he? Yeah, they need this game.
A little bit more action for Darrell Henderson. They need every game.
Yeah, I mean, but when you're 5-1 and you've been stealing wins, like if you could find a way to beat this Rams team, and I mean, good luck moving the ball against Jalen Johnson and Fuller in that secondary, and Eddie Jackson in that secondary. So I love this game, Chef, and I'm watching Roquan, and I'm watching Danny Trevathan. I'm watching those linebackers. I want to see Khalil Mack coming off the edge. On the other side, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, and the way they shut people down. Like, I can't wait to watch this game.
Yeah, this is going to be a great defensive matchup. For all intensive purposes, fantasy purposes, you probably weren't playing Nick Foles unless you really had to. I know in one league, in a Superflex league, I am. So I'm hoping for the best, but it doesn't look good. The one bright spot that I want to shine a little bit of light on is Allen Robinson. All right. We all know about I'm sorry. Oh, man, my mind just went blank.
But listen, Allen Robinson, Chef, real quick, he hasn't had less than 9 targets in any game this season. So, like, I love the opportunity of him, but I hate the matchup against Jalen Ramsey. I love to see it. They used to be teammates down in Jacksonville, and it's going to be one of those. Like, it's going to be contested, and they're going to be fighting all day long.
Jalen Ramsey, he's the slot corner, correct?
No.
He plays all around.
He plays all around. I'm pretty sure, Chef, you're going to see him 90% of the time on Allen Robinson. Like, I'd be very surprised if Jalen Ramsey wasn't on Allen Robinson 100% of the time tonight.
Oh, so he doesn't really shadow, but he may shadow tonight. Is that what you're saying?
He shadows. No, yeah, he shadows. It depends on. Listen, in the championship game a couple years ago that they were playing against the Patriots, he was taking Gronk. So, like, he's one of those guys you put on the best option of the other team and just say, take him. Go get that guy.
So it could be something along the lines of Darnell Mooney.
Yes, or Anthony Miller.
Anthony Miller.
That's the thing about these games. Like, we expect them to all be defensive games. Well, we talked about it earlier, Chef.
Jimmy Graham, Cole Kmet.
Right, like Miles Sanders broke a 74-yard touchdown run against the Steelers. That goes against the script. So Jalen Ramsey getting beat over the top, like Michael Gallup had him beat in that game against Dallas, and that was a bad call. Like he can be beaten, and it can happen. So like things like that can go against the grain and turn this game high scoring. Plus, you don't know what special teams plays are going to happen. The fumbles are real. You know, like guys like Khalil Mack and Aaron Donald can flip the game by stripping the quarterback. Nick Foles has been known to let himself throw a bad pass here and there. So, like, there could be a lot of excitement created by the defense and provide a little bit more scoring than we were expecting if they put the offenses in good positions.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It all depends on who controls the clock and who has that one or two plays that trumps the other team. Both teams have great defenses. The Rams have a slighter better offensive core, but we'll see what happens, man. I'm intrigued about this matchup. I'm excited because, it's football and I love football, so why not? But
combined, these two teams have only allowed 4 touchdowns to the wide receiver in the whole season, and they're number 2 and number 4 against the wide receiver position so far. So if it's going to be anything, it should be Darrell Henderson, David Montgomery ripped one off, or those tight ends that you mentioned, Jimmy Graham, Cole Kmet, finding themselves into the end zone.
I think Gerald Everett has a shot to get in there too if they find themselves near the goal line.
Especially if Higbee's out.
Higbee's out, yeah.
Yeah, so him, maybe Josh Reynolds in the slot, maybe like something along those lines, like another piece.
Van Jefferson game, where Van Jefferson blows the coverage wide open. I like that one.
It could be. It's going to be obscure players of that ilk that make this game. Like, that's what's going to make this game. But expect good defense all around.
All right, so that wraps it about up, man. It's almost 20 after 8. It's almost time for kickoff. I just got the watch live notification on my phone. We are going to sign off. Thank you for everyone that joined us, especially you guys on YouTube, Lima FN, X Miles. Thank you. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you are subscribed to our channel so we can glorify that channel for you. The more subscriptions and followers we get, the more we can do for you. So I will be signing off. I am the FF Chef. You can find me at Twitter on FF_Chef. Check out the Facebook page, thetiltisreal.com. We're out there. We're doing our thing. Juan, close us out, brother.
I'm Juan Carlos Pena. I'm at FF1ofAkind on Twitter. We are at thetiltisreal.com. We'll be back Wednesday evening, and we'll be breaking down the games for next week and doing our normal pod. We'll be recording The Tilt is Real, episode 19, Chef?
18.
18. Oh, 18.
And it's going to be a Halloween theme.
Ooh, spooky.
It's going to be a little spooky.
I like it. Yeah, I like that theme. So, yeah, we'll be back Wednesday night, and we'll be there for you. And like the chef said, we'll be on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
All right, guys, that about wraps it up. From all of us here at the Tilt is Real Fantasy Football Podcast, thank you for tuning in, and check us out next time. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Tilt is Real Fantasy Podcast. Check out our website at thetiltisreal.com for weekly articles, breakdowns, and more. Follow us on Twitter at TIR_pod. We'll see you Tilters next week.